Good evening, welcome to MRU Poko News. This is Muhwezi Davis to bring you the headlines. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. These are the headlines. Oakley School President resigns. Heavy gunfire reported in Somalia. Patriarch dies aged 90. And in sports, Arsenal agree a deal to sign Martin Odegaard. These are the news in details. The Oakley School Board president has resigned after school trustees were caught making belittling comments about district parents. The head of a Northern California school board has resigned her position after she and her fellow trustees were caught making belittling comments about district parents during a Zoom meeting. Let's have a report by Nancy Ugarichen.
Are we alone?
Yeah.
If you're gonna call me out, I'm gonna you up.
California school board members caught disparaging parents on accidental Zoom broadcast. Members of the Oakley Union Elementary School District Board of Trustees used profanity to refer to parents. The president has stepped down. The head of a Northern California school board has resigned her position after she and several of her fellow trustees were caught making disparaging remarks about district parents during a Zoom meeting that was accidentally broadcast to the public. They want to pick on us because they want their babysitters back, President Lisa Brezindin said during the Wednesday Zoom meeting of the Oakley Union Elementary School District Board of Trustees, a recording of which was posted to Twitter by NBC News Bay Area.
Thank you, Rechen, for that report.
Yes.
Heavy gunfire has broken out in Somalia's capital as opposition leaders defied a ban on public gatherings to protest about the delayed elections. Let's have a report from Dafin Nakayaga in Mogadishu.
Heavy gunfires broke out in Somalia's capital as opposition leaders defied a ban on public gatherings to their post about delayed elections. The president's terms expired last week when the session of the successors throwing Somalia into a crisis. Over the night, the government said military men attacked many positions in Mogadishu, closed the president's palace. Most roads in the city has been closed and special forces deployed. President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed has been to the hold meeting with Somalians' 5 regional presidents as a part of effort to the end of the deadlock. But it has been repeatedly delayed this week, so far as only one regional leader has arrived in the city, reports Daphne MRU 9.
Thank you, Daphne, for that report. Patriarch dies aged 90. Let's have a report from Sendijan Dimitrios.
Orthodox Patriarch died of COVID-19. The 90-year-old head of the Serbian Orthodox Church had led a large public funeral in the early November for the most senior cleric in the neighboring Montenegro, who also died of COVID-19. I was honored to know you. People like you never depart, President Alexander Vučić said on Instagram. Patriarch Irenerich was a conservative who also wielded major political influence in the country. He was put on a ventilator in the military hospital after his condition worsened. Thus, 2 weeks later, he was announced dead. Patriarch Irenerich was known for criticizing the Serbian government, facilitating the gay pride events, condemning homosexuality as a deviation of human nature. He was admitted on 4th November, 3 days after he officiated at the funeral of the Metropolitan Bishop Amfirohije Ladovic, who was 82 years of old. Thousands of mourners who had gathered at the event without masks or maintaining standard operating procedures. Many of those present kissed the bishop's body as it was laid in an open casket. Bishop Amfirohije had himself defied the COVID regulations in Montenegro. His public funeral went ahead, a major spike in coronavirus cases in Montenegro and Serbia, and despite a warning from the authorities that the ceremony posed a high risk to the public health. Sendija Dimitrios, MRU TV tonight.
Thank you, Sendija. That's really sad news. We pray for his family and friends. The Austrian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has said his government will not be intimidated by Facebook blocking news feeds to use. He described the move to unfriend Australia as arrogant and disappointing. Let's have the news from our reporter, Muhwezi Davis in Australia. Australia not intimidated by Facebook news ban. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has said his government will not be intimidated by Facebook blocking news feeds to users. He described the move to unfriend Australia as arrogant and disappointing. Facebook is responding to a proposed law which would make tech giants pay for news content on their platforms. Australians on Thursday woke up to find that Facebook pages of all local and global news sites were unavailable. People outside the country are also unable to read or access Australian news publications on the platform. Several government and health emergency pages were also blocked. Facebook later asserted this was a mistake and many of these pages are now back online. Google and Facebook have fought the law because they say it does not reflect how the internet works and unfairly penalizes their platforms. However, in contrast to Facebook, Google has in recent days signed payment deals with 3 major Australian media outlets. Facebook's action came just hours after Google agreed to pay Rupert Murdoch's News Corp for content from news sites across its media empire. Consumption of digital news through social media and search engines is growing in Australia, according to the Reuters Digital News Report for 2020. Some 37% of consumers who took part said they had gained access to news via social media over the course of a week, compared with 31% who had directly accessed websites or apps, the report said. In a statement posted on Facebook, Mr. Morrison said that big tech companies might be changing the world, but this does not mean they should run it. The Prime Minister said, and I quote, Facebook's actions to unfriend Australia today, cutting off essential information services on health and emergency services, were arrogant as they were disappointing. Mr. Morrison urged Facebook to work constructively with the government as Google recently demonstrated in good faith. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg said the ban on news information had a huge impact and 17 million Australians visit the social media site every month. Other officials were less diplomatic. Western Australia Premier Mark Gowan accused the company of behaving like a North Korean dictator. Many Australians are angry about their sudden loss of access to trusted and authoritative sources. Peter Piff in Sydney told the BBC that it feels obviously very restrictive in what Facebook is going to allow people to do in the future, not only in Australia, but around the world. For MRI TV, this is Muhwezi Davis. Thank you, Muhwezi Davis, for that news. And lastly, in sports, Arsenal have agreed a deal to sign Martin Odegaard on loan from Real Madrid. Let's have a report from our reporter, Sinan Senoga, in London.
Arsenal have agreed a deal to sign Real Madrid midfielder Martin Odegaard on loan until the end of the season. Odegaard will undergo a medical in the next 24 hours before completing his temporary move to North London. The 22-year-old made it clear that he wanted to leave this month, and in order to play first-team football, he has decided to leave Real Madrid after playing only 9 games this season. A number of Premier League clubs, including Leicester City and Everton, were interested in signing the Norwegian midfielder. The agreement was reached upon on the same day Mesut Ozil confirmed his departure from the club after signing a 3-year deal with Fenerbahce. Odegaard is set to become Arsenal's second signing in the mid-season transfer window after the club secured the services of Brighton goalkeeper Matt Ryan on loan. For MRI TV, I'm Sinan Senoga.
Thank you, Sinan, for that report. And that's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you for being good viewers. Good evening.